from me. All right, our next session, our last session before lunch, is focused on two projects involved with AI. We have Esther Duflo from economics and Graham Jones from anthropology. They'll give their presentations, then they'll be joined for a panel discussion with their collaborators, Barzia Gassemi from EECS and Arvind Satyanarayan, also from EECS. And then Daniel Huttenlocker, the Dean of the Schwarzman College of Computing, will join to moderate. So Esther, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being here in such large number and for, just the very thing that it's possible to do this. Lily and I serve on the task force of the undergraduate education. So these are the idea that MIT is not just an engineering school, but has a very vibrant shares program, and that it's integrated deeply into the education experience of the students and also in the research of various faculties, of course, very critical. I'm looking at my phone because I want to time myself. So this is an example, perhaps, of one of the things that this incredible place makes possible. So this is a project about using, so most of my work in the context of JPAL, the JMIL Poverty Action Lab, is about designing and evaluating policies that improve the lives of poor people around the world. JPAL is actually a network of faculty across the world, of about 1,000 faculties across the world. It works in various sectors, from health, education, environment, etc. And our work is really kind of at the intersection of research and policy. In this context, of course, a very active area right now is the combination of AI and blah. We have actually, we're able to raise money to do AI and blah, which we call AI for Good. And one of this is AI for Health, which has been very active at MIT way before we got into it, in particular with, but not only, with the help of, again, the JMIL family through the J Clinic. So this project is a collaboration of many people with different hats, and I think that's kind of what makes this wonderful and possible. One, of course, is Marzieh from EECS, and myself. Marzieh is here and join us later. Ziad Obermeyer is a medical doctor, emergency room physician, as well as being a researcher in AI for the longest time. Frank is also from economics. Gireja Vaidyanathan is both a civil servant, very high. She retired as the chief secretary for state of Tamil Nadu, so the biggest person in the state in the bureaucracy, but she's also a medical doctor and a researcher, and she's an OBGYN by training. And then two students, one in economics, one in ECS. So you can see how it takes many cooks to do this project, but this is what makes it particularly great. So what's the policy challenge? The policy challenge is that countries like India, but not just India, but certainly middle-income countries who are growing fast, are now trapped into a double burden of disease, one being the traditional infectious diseases, and the other being non-communicable diseases that are more and more important in people's lives. And of course, a third thing is coming along, which is the direct impact of climate change. But for the non-communicable diseases, there is there are large treatment gaps, which often stems for diagnosis gap. So, for example, in a survey we have of people, it's a panel study we are doing with people. They started 50 and above about 10 years ago, so they are now 60 and above. Many of them have various conditions that are non-communicable and manageable, if not treatable, but most of them do not know that they have them. In many cases, this diagnosis exists in high-income setting. It's, and even people in India who are high-income themselves can easily get diagnosed for this. For example, one of the conditions that's going to be really the focus for today is more as like a test case, is whether or not you've had a heart attack in the past. So if you had what's called a silent heart attack, I'm not a doctor, so I hope I'm not saying anything wrong, but if you had a silent heart attack, you had a heart attack in the past, you didn't die, that's good. That's the good news. The bad news is it makes you weaker and more susceptible to the next one. And the good news, again, is that that's actually a manageable condition. You can put people on very cheap things, beta blocker, statin, baby aspirin, and they'll get, that's really help managing the condition. But for that, they have to know that that has happened. And many of the silent heart attack never made it to the hospital, so there is no sign they have it. How do you diagnose it? The gold standard test is an ultrasound. An ultrasound is expensive and can only be done in the hospital. So our idea was to use to see whether it was test out whether it was possible to diagnose silent heart attack. Not diagnose, but predict whether someone might have had a silent heart attack in the past using a simple one-lead ECG device produced by AliveCore. These are the type that you might be given if you have elderly parents to check that their arrhythmia is in check. So that's what it does. It's not, it's not designed to test whether there was a heart attack. But Ziad's hunch was that it might be possible to go from there to form a prediction that there might have been a heart attack in the past. So we are predicting the past, which is a little strange, but you see what I mean. So if that worked, that's really worth testing. That there was a good chance that it wasn't going to work. But if it does work, then because the government of Tamil Nadu, where we are doing this work in the south of India, like many other governments in the states, have lots of people going to people's doorsteps anyways for various things, like giving people diabetes medicines and so on. It's very easy to outfit them with this device, which is super cheap. And then they can do the test, and then we can run the algorithm, see whether someone is above a certain threshold, and above a certain threshold of likelihood that that event has occurred in the past, we can send them to get tested in hospital, get the ultrasound that confirm the diagnosis. So that was the idea. And so all we're requiring from the test is that it gives, whether or not it gives us any information that is better than noise or better than age or better than the scores that people use today. And so what we did is that we, with the help of JPAL South Asia and the government, we organized these camps where people were able to come, and then we gave them a batteries of tests. So today I'm presenting to you this one, but the hope in working with Marzia's group is that there'll be many others, because we collected all of the tests under the sun as long as we had people available, both cheap and expensive. So we have things that are cheap to do, like a retina photo, a blood pressure, our one-lead ECG, of course, and then we have also ultrasound and many other things. And then what we did is, our students, Jenny, who is supported by this grant, started working with a lot of people in the department and EECS, and to teach herself how you apply machine learning algorithm to these things. We predicted, we used the data, so we have the gold standard tests, that's our ground truth. We have the cheaper tests, anything that someone could easily, cheaply do on the ground, but in particular this one-lead ECG. And then the objective is to form a model that predicts that the person is likely to have had a heart attack. So that's how we are building the algorithm, and we are also using, in order to be more efficient given the amount of data we are using, we're also bringing in data from Sweden to pre-train the algorithm, and we then fine-tune within our existing data. So that work happened. It went pretty well because, so this is kind of how the government is, how the collaboration is working. This work happened. It worked pretty well because at the high end, our algorithm is quite predictive that someone would have had a silent heart attack. In our high-risk group, 95% of above, the chance that they've had one is about 9%, which is 9 times greater than in any of the other groups. And then, so what we did is our economist hat is we do a cost-benefit analysis, which tells us whether this would be worth it to deploy this, identify the people, send them to be tested if they are at high risk. And it's very, and then that's, compare the number of lives you could save in this way with the cost of testing a bunch of people who probably haven't had that event happened. And it's super, super, super cost effective. And what is remarkable compared to existing tests is that it catches young people who are less likely to have had a silent heart attack, but have many years of life saved if you can catch them. And those young people are completely excluded from the current screening because the screening is basically based on age. So this something like that kind of makes it young, meaning not super young, but like the 40 plus. So where the last things this brings me to one of the things we want to do in the future, which is the student that ECS is financing with this grant is already starting to do, is to look at fairness property of this algorithm. Like, yes, we catch young people. Do we miss people that we shouldn't be missing? And a preliminary result suggests that this algorithm actually works better in urban areas for older people, even though it works for younger people, and for men than for women. So one of the things we can do in the future is to improve it, to make it to solve these issues. And of course, this is, I think, scratching the surface of what we can do with this data. What we can do in the world is also scratching the surface. We already raised more money through the AI for Good initiative of JPAL to run a randomized controlled trial where these things will actually be first refined, like one more round of data collection to make it better, and then will be sent to people. People will actually be outfitted with this, and we'll see whether they do it, and we can compare whether or not people get diagnosed with this. So as my son was just at the Model UN, I yield my time to the chair, but I don't have any, so thank you so much.
Thank you, Esther. Let me make sure this works.
Go a couple more.
Couple more?
There you are.
Oh, that's me. Hi, I'm Graham Jones. Thank you so much, Esther. Thank you, Kirill and the MITHIC team, Jen and Elena. Thanks to Augustine and Anantha and Sally for making this all possible, and to the generous funders of this program, and to all of you for being here. So my name is Graham Jones. I am a linguistic anthropologist, which means that I study how people communicate with each other. My MITHIC collaborator, Arvind Satyanarayan, who's over there, studies human-computer interaction, which means that he studies how people communicate with computers. Our MITHIC project, spanning SHAS and the School of Engineering, focuses on an unprecedented moment in history where large language models have allowed people to communicate with computers as if they were talking to other people. So you can see the kind of Venn diagram of our areas of expertise. We wanted to draw on these respective fields to understand the opportunities that LLMs represented, but also to mitigate harms and improve societal impacts. But our collaboration actually begins several years earlier, and so I want to try to contextualize it for you today. So as I said, I study how people communicate, and in particular, I'm interested in how people communicate information. Valuable information. Information like secrets. Imagine someone with a secret to share and someone else who wants it. The secret holder could just tell the secret straight out, here you go, and spill the beans. But consider what happens in the following example. This is a magician who I recorded sharing a secret during my fieldwork among French magicians. This is just a small snippet of a much longer revelation, and I was one of the people receiving the secret. So he says, to you, I'll give it to you, all right, but, well, we're not going to make it official or whatever. That's it. It's his. No, but. So you'll notice that far from just spilling the beans or giving the secret, this person is stammering, he's hedging, he's interrupting himself, he's imposing conditions. He's anxious about sharing the secret, and his anxiety is not only palpable but contagious, affecting the people who are receiving the secret. And that shared anxiety is part of what makes magicians magicians. Now, from this, I want you to retain two lessons. One, the form of talk shapes its meaning. And two, meaning is social. Now, here's an example from Arvind's research, a data visualization, like one of many that most of you probably see every day. This is also intended to convey information, probably very important information. And most people think that conveying information is all that data visualizations do. But compare it to this data visualization. You'll notice some differences. The color palette is different, and in this new chart, instead of bland color fields, we have these colorful green plants. You'll also notice that the information has been removed from these graphs. We don't know what they're about. But if I asked you where you thought these graphs came from, I bet many of you would have some ideas. Arvind and I recently ran a series of experiments using charts like these, and we found that even when the content of visualizations is obscured, people have very strong ideas about who made them and why. And this has profound implications for whether or not people trust that information, a discovery with deep implications for fighting mis- and disinformation. But I want you to retain this. This discovery means that even for data visualization, form shapes meaning, and that meaning is social. Just a few weeks ago, there was an article in the MIT News about this discovery, if any of you are interested. But that's not really why you're here today. What does this have to do with AI? It turns out quite a lot. LLMs now allow us to communicate with computers as if we were communicating with other people. Old-fashioned, rule-governed AI could not handle many of the things that humans do with language. Generative AI has changed all that. Consider ambiguity. In the sentence, "the peasants are revolting," is revolting a verb or an adjective? Well, it depends on the context, which humans are very good at parsing or laughing about when they can't. Probabilistic AI can parse such ambiguities, and in interactions with human users, it reflects our key tenets. Form shapes meaning, and meaning is social. This is a deep technological breakthrough, but like many breakthroughs, it is far from an unalloyed good. Consider this transcript. This is a snippet of many thousands of messages shared between a British man and an AI girlfriend that he created on the Replica app. Over the course of months, this AI girlfriend helped the man plan to assassinate the Queen of England. He was arrested with a crossbow breaking into Buckingham Palace. Old-fashioned rule-governed AI could never have done this. It used to be the case that in building an AI system, a designer would pre-configure settings for everything that a human might do with the system. This could involve giving more agency to the human user for more manual tasks, or more agency to the system for more automated tasks. But all of this would be decided in advance. But as we have shown, interactions with Gen AI are open-ended. And as such, designing for generative AI takes a different form. Because what the system and the user will do together is not predetermined, designers configure open-ended possibility spaces. Our MITHIC project focuses on how best to configure those possibility spaces. We approach this issue in terms of sociocultural awareness, because AI agents communicating like people, with people, are entering into sociocultural relationships. We think that making designers aware of this will lead to not only safer systems, but ones that are better performing. This is what we proposed in our MITHIC project, but at the time of the proposal, we really didn't know how to do it. And that's one of the really great things about this grant, is that it gave us the freedom to explore an open-ended problem space of our own. Working on this over the summer, we were captivated by an emerging trend in the design of AI agents. We began experimenting with building systems in which each possibility space was its own independent agent, offering a much more granular control over how the overall system might behave. This is called multi-agent AI, and we decided that the best way to explore the topic was by teaching about it. We quickly put together a special subject called Humane User Experience Design, which we're currently teaching, in which students are using a multi-agent approach to designing AI systems. The crux of our collaboration is the term humane. Like revolting, it's a bit of a double entendre, meaning both human-serving or benevolent and human-like. What's interesting is that our students are discovering that there's a fundamental tension between building a system that's good for people and one that seems human, because real people can develop dangerous dependencies. We have 40 students in the class, and they're currently working on final projects ranging from domains such as education, health and wellness, personal growth, and entertainment. We're hoping to continue with a smaller subset of current seniors as MEng students next year, and really to see how far we can push the application of anthropology to computer science and computer science to anthropology. And incidentally, on my way out of class today, I spoke with one of our graduating seniors who just had an internship in New York working with a startup that's using multi-agent AI to develop a tool to help senior citizens navigate social services. And he said, it's just our class. So that was very validating for us. This collaboration reflects the best of MIT, of Mens et Manus, and we are very grateful for the opportunity that MITHIC has given us to pursue it in cooperation with our wonderful students. Thank you.
We self-organized. I was wondering who's sitting where. Well, great. Thank you for these really fantastic projects. Maybe I'll start with a question for Esther and Marzia, just sort of in the order of presentation, I guess. So this is an extremely important problem domain of creating new low-cost screening methods to refer people for further testing that they might not otherwise be getting for very serious but hidden health conditions. So my first question is, how did your multidisciplinary team arrive at this particular problem of silent heart attack and the approach that you pursued? And maybe just as what I find really remarkable about this approach is it's technologically feasible. There's no human AI collaboration in it, which becomes a gigantic rat's nest of trying to get better outcomes. And of course, it's aimed at treating a very important issue. So how did you get there?
Yeah, maybe I'll start with, because that was before Marzieh came onto the project, and then she can say what the various places we could go from there. I think, so this is, the genesis of this project is, I was in, sadly now defunct, NIH PO1, like a center grant on health and aging. That a lot of different people working on different things. And Ziad and Sendil Mulanathan were presenting about over-testing and under-testing. In the US, we are more talking about the fact that they are over-testing. We're sending people, referring people to test, but they did point out that even in the US, there is also under-testing, and then they were, Ziad was, and then they were presenting the possibility that something like that could help pre-screen who should be tested for what. And I thought, oh, this is really interesting, because I'm sure there is progress to be made in the US, but I know for a fact that this is, if it's like second order improvement in the US, it's first order improvement in the places where I work with, where people, don't get tested for anything. In fact, they get drugs before they get tested for anything. And so that's kind of how I approach Ziad to see if he wanted to work on this. And the idea of heart attack came from him. Again, he is a practicing physician. He works in the ER, he sees them. And he's also has been working in this space for a very long time. And he thought it had all of this virtue that you describe, which is we are not trying to mimic how a human would have made a decision, which is a lot of how the problems are done. In fact, we are trying to go straight to the ground truth, which is what would the ultrasound say, where there is any not really ambiguity. So that would be a great advantage, something you can actually very easily, maybe more easily do in India, because people haven't gotten the ultrasound already, and that can be done cheaply, that can be deployed easily, and that have potential life-saving virtue. So that's kind of why we wanted to try this as a test case and our proof of concept, with the idea that there's no reason to stop there. The data is public. It's on a public use platform, so anybody can try to do better or to work on other diseases, and can also go to Tamil Nadu and work with us to deploy whatever their idea is in the field. And when I heard of MIT HIC, I was like, oh, that's an occasion to kind of grab the attention of my ECS friends. And I had seen Marzieh in the context of talking about this grant and a future grant we were trying to get at the PO1. So I thought she will be really the right person to lead that effort.
I'm also, just for people who don't know me, I'm a noted hater of AI in health, because that's my research topic. I've seen so many bad deployments, it's very bad. But a majority of the bad deployments are actually when you're trying to your goal is to make something more efficient, and your idea for efficiency is, I'll just colonize this human-human interaction with an AI system, thereby taking out the expensive part of it, which is the interaction with another human, which I'm very against. I don't want AI to colonize all human interactions in a healthcare setting. And I loved this example because when Esther approached me, again, as a noted hater of specific deployments, this is such a good deployment. It's like one of the few times somebody has approached me and I've said, this makes so much sense in every way. It's technically the right data to try to use low cost to project or predict what high cost data would have given you. It's attacking a problem that actually matters and that we can do something about. It's not predicting some hypothetical thing that there's no treatment for. Like we actually have something we can do with it. And it's also extremely scalable. So I think this is, it was one of the sort of best designed uses of AI in a healthcare setting that I've seen. And I'm very excited to be part of it.
I have a million follow-up questions from that, but I'm going to ping pong back and forth. Otherwise, I'll go down the rabbit hole of one project. So Arvin and Graham, I think the question of understanding what happens when people communicate with computers as if they were human has become incredibly important with AI advances, as you noted, and really urgent, and one that requires insight from multiple disciplines. I guess maybe I'll start with a somewhat irreverent kind of question. So people already talk to their pets like they're human. So does that mean it's inherent that people are going to communicate with AI as if it's human? It certainly presents itself as much more human-like than most of our pets. Even if it's made clear that it's not human. And currently, of course, the direction is it's pretending to be human rather than, but certainly some people are advocating for not doing that. So how do you think about how we address this, both with better human understanding and with better AI systems design? I think either one of those alone, probably not enough. And maybe I'll start with Arvind since
he's looking at me as if he wants.
Okay, well then, all right, you guys figure out who starts.
Well, I think as an anthropologist, we know cross-culturally that people around the world in various cultures have the propensity and the capacity to personify all types of entities in the world, not just animals, but entities that we in Western culture might consider inanimate. And I think that this traces back fundamentally to a fundamental mechanism of human psychology, which is pareidolia. Our tendency to perceive animacy in the world or to seek out agency in the world. It's a capacity that's necessary for human survival, and it gets organized in various cultures into kind of refined capacities or refined cosmologies that allow us to experience the world as animated by agents, non-human agents. So we know that, in a sense, as you say, Dan, there's nothing new about our tendency to personify or to personify AI agents. I think, nevertheless, given partially the institutional and sociological conditions in which AI is currently being deployed, if we consider, for instance, the crisis of loneliness, the crisis of isolation in modern Western democracies, I think it creates a very volatile situation in which the personification of AI can have perverse consequences. And so we need to be very mindful of the cultural context in which AI is activating, summoning, mobilizing that human propensity for personification.
All right, so now I'm really going to put Arvind on the spot.
Yeah, no. So
how do we do that?
So I mean, that's sort of the thing that we're exploring in our class. So just building off of Graham's response, we even taught this. I think Graham taught this in one of our first lectures. This human propensity to sort of personify, anthropomorphize, even non-human inanimate objects. And I think the difference for me with chatbots is that this is now happening. The chatbot can respond back to you and respond back to you with language. And language is this incredibly seductive medium, right? Even going back to like the early experiments with ELIZA that happened here at MIT, you don't need a very sophisticated algorithm for folks to suddenly read tremendous amounts of meaning into the interaction that they're seeing. And now we've got AI models that can respond far more contextually, responsively to what the user is saying. And so as a result, I'm sure many of us have been following the news and seeing all the sort of adverse outcomes of that, all the way through to really horrific things like, suicide. And our goal with our class is to give our students various handles into the design process for how to contend with that. So we cover things from the conversational design, right? How these different multi-agent systems can take on different frames, either intentionally or unintentionally, through to sort of the visual and interaction design pieces, because that also contributes a lot of the phenomenon that users are experiencing as they converse with the chatbot. And what I think is really amazing for us to see is, the students came in already reacting to or perhaps against this phenomenon that we're seeing. Like many of them, we just finished a round of presentations today, are designing explicitly to make sure these agents aren't sycophantic, right? Aren't telling people exactly what it is they wish to hear. Even going back to the very first reading we set them, many of them picked up, what we want from like our really good friends, a true AI companion, is for occasionally that companion to push back on us. Right? And what does it mean to design for that sort of interaction is really sort of at the heart of our class and our MIT project.
Great. All right, switching context back to health. So this one's maybe a little more on the technical side. So the training set that you had for this of about 6,000 individuals where you had sort of ground truth data that you were trying to predict is actually quite small compared to a lot of machine learning systems. So are you developing larger training sets, especially as you're looking at subpopulations, which is a very important part of your work? A very small training set doesn't represent any subpopulation well, or might exclude some completely. But also, I think one of the big lessons from, at least one of my big takeaways from sort of modern machine learning is, in some sense, the more data, even that isn't obviously directly relevant that you train with, the better these things do. So how are you thinking about that in the context of this project?
Yeah, that's what the physicists say, no? More data. First you need more data, the rest doesn't matter. We are about to go to the field, or maybe in the field, with at least doubling the size of the data set. Even that is not going to be gigantic, but that's why the Swedish came in. That helped. And in the new data we are collecting, we were talking about also being smarter how we collect the data. In particular, we can start by deploy people in the field nearby and see whether they look like they already have our imperfect algorithm already predict where they are likely to have had the heart attack, and then if they have, say, please go get tested. So we'll have more people with instances, because it's not just the size of the data set, it is how many are positive, which is an issue.
Yeah, we have a real issue with silent heart attack where the rate is very low, right? And so if you have anything that has a very low prevalence rate, it's really important that you capture as many examples of the positives as possible. And so by doing more like active learning style selection of more participants, you can really squeeze as much as possible out of the data you have. Because 6,000 samples is not enough, but if you select the next few thousand intelligently, you can do a lot better.
And maybe, since switching context again is going to be hard, because I see this thing counting down in front of me. So say you're really successful with this project. Does that start to overload the next stage of the healthcare system? Because these people are not seeking these more expensive and extensive forms of testing, or how have you thought about that?
No, I think screening almost never does that. Like in any of the applications I've seen, and this is a very good example because as Esther said, we do actually have treatments that are very cheap and can be used to maintain the condition longer term. But even if we think about like, if you have a silent heart attack, then your conditional probability of having a second heart attack is much higher. Right, and so even just having like more screening opportunities for those individuals is a huge opportunity. And so again, like I hate a lot of possible deployments of AI in health, but this is a really good one. Like it has a real impact to do some good.
Super. All right, we're gonna turn it to the audience now, and we'll let Carol see that part.
Yes, and unfortunately, my role is keeping the trains running. We don't have time for any audience questions. But we do have time.
Wait a minute, then I'm going to go over.
We have a lunch actually planned where we can continue this conversation and the other conversations from this morning. So I wanted to thank, first of all, this panel for their presentations and conversation. The lunch is actually on the 6th floor. So you can take the elevators or stairs down to the 6th floor, and then we'll resume the next two sessions at 12:30 in this space. So let's all continue our conversation over lunch.